Welcome to my workshop. You are watching Casual DIY channel, and in today's video we're going to be talking about two different dust extraction systems. High pressure and low volume system like this shop vac with the cyclone attached to it, and this powerful extractor that is high volume and low pressure. Now, why do we actually need sawdust collections in our workshops in the first place? Well, for two main reasons, and they're both connected to our safety. First of all, it's to keep our workshops clean. A clean workshop is a safe workshop. Imagine a pile of sawdust lying on the floor everywhere. It's a trip hazard, and with running tools around your workshop, well, you're just asking for trouble. And not only it's a trip hazard, but it also is a fire hazard, and you definitely don't want to have that in your workshop that's full of wood. Secondly, you are making sure that the sawdust that you generate in your workshop doesn't land in your lungs. However, even if you will have the best dust extraction system out there available on the market, I would still strongly suggest to wear a dust mask. Okay, you definitely don't want to have that micro dust floating into your lungs. I've got a HEPA filter on my shop vac, but it still says on the box it will filter 99 point whatever percent of the tiny particles of sawdust. Now, the dust collector I've got over here, the bag on top is actually a filter as well. Now, this is not the standard filter. This one is an upgraded one. It will filter particles up to 5 microns, which is a little bit worse than I've got on my shop vac. But you can get filters for machines like this that will filter up to 2 microns as well. However, in most cases, those will actually cost as much as the machine itself. So either way, I would still suggest using a dust mask. Right then, let's talk about a shop vac, a dust extractor. Now, that's probably the first thing you're going to think to yourself that you need to get the dust out of your workshop from your machine as you are working. Now, this system is high pressure and low volume. Usually they will come with hoses that are roughly about between 35 to 50 millimeters in diameter. In my case, I've got 40 millimeters. Usually shop vacs are relatively inexpensive. In my case, it is a dust extractor, wet and dry as well, so it's a bit of a combo. And what is the difference? Basically, I do have a filter inside. Let me just show you. Like this one, it's a HEPA filter that should filter up to 2 microns. Okay, so it's a very good thing to have around your workshop to make sure you're not breathing a lot of harmful dust. The barrel from my shop vac is actually empty, and the filter itself is relatively clean. Why is that? Well, that's because I've attached a cyclone system to my shop vac. Okay, so basically what it does, it stops the dust and the chips from getting into the shop vac, which means the filter will last longer and you won't have to empty the shop vac itself so often, and you're not losing suction power when it actually gets fullish. A cyclone system like this is definitely a worth upgrade, and I would recommend that to anybody. You know, you're going to help your filter in your shop vac to live a little bit longer, and you know, you won't have to clean it that often. But what does it actually mean that this system is high pressure and low volume? Well, let me show you that on an example. Now, the high pressure low volume system, which is the shop vac, is very good, as you can see, on removing sawdust when it's up close next to its source. However, as you move the hose away, the efficiency drops dramatically. So this type of extractor is best for tools like sanders, routers, circular saws, where the dust doesn't have a long way to travel. However, the dust collector will be able to pick up greater volume of sawdust. It will remove the sawdust much quicker, and it will still remain efficient even if it's further away from the source of dust. So the efficiency of your dust extraction system will be dictated by the volume of air it can actually move over time. And that can be measured by something called CFM, cubic feet per minute. The greater the value, the more efficient the system will be. However, again, this is totally different to this. Now, the reason that this dust collector can actually pick up more sawdust in a more efficient and quicker way is because it can move a higher amount of air volume. So the dust collector will come with inlets that are about 10 millimeters in diameter or sometimes greater, depending on what model you've got. Then you can think to yourself, well, actually, I could use the dust collector on my other tools as well, like the router, circular saw or a sander. I'm just gonna put some reducing rings on this so it fits my smaller tools. If you do decide to put the reducing connector and reduce the hole itself to about 40 millimeters as it is in this case, you will reduce the efficiency of the whole system and by a lot. Be prepared that the system will not work correctly and will not be as efficient. Similar thing applies to the other system, the high pressure, low volume one. Okay, so on your 50 millimeter hose, if you are putting a reducing rings or extendable rings in this case, your system will not be able to remove that much material from your machine, for example from a thickness planer or a jointer. Now, the effectiveness of your shop vac or your dust collector is also dictated by the quality of the tools you've got. Okay, so sometimes the way they are designed, no matter how good the collection system is, it will still produce a lot of sawdust. For example, like my table saw, it's definitely the biggest culprit in producing sawdust in my workshop. Therefore, I always suggest to wear a dust mask. However, you may also think of investing into an air filtration unit in your workshop, like this one from Record Power. It will greatly improve the air quality in your workshop and will make sure that the tiny particles will not be inhaled by yourself when you finish working with your table saw, for example, and when you take the dust mask off. So as you can see, the dust collection is actually a very wide and fairly complicated topic that has got multiple layers, and we not actually went into great details of how these machines work exactly, but I hope you get a general understanding of how they work and why and when you should be using one or the other. There's so much more to cover on this topic, but I didn't want you to drift off and fall asleep during the video, as it may get a little bit technical. It's just the general understanding of how these systems work. Now the question comes, do you actually need both in your workshop? Well, that depends. If you do have those larger tools like the thicknesser, the jointer, bandsaw, all those tools that require a dust collector rather than dust extractor. Now currently on the market you can actually get machines that are somewhere in the middle of both worlds, obviously a little bit more expensive, but will allow you to tackle most jobs and won't take as much space as the dust collector, and still allow you to connect it to a jointer or a thickness planer and do a decent job. Now I'm going to drop some links in the description of this video for all those systems, my shop vac, the dust collector as well, so you can go and have a look, compare and see all the stats in details. However, from my own personal experience, I actually buy a lot of rough lumber, so I'm gonna go through the milling process, which creates a ton amount of sawdust with my thicknesser and my jointer. So for me, the best solution for those tools is the dust collector, as my shop vac is just not capable of taking all the sawdust and the chips away, and I'm just ending up in a massive mess around my workshop. Hence I decided to invest in this unit. but that is all down to your personal preferences and your current situation. Now in today's video, I'm only covering the basics about both of these systems so you get a general understanding of how they work. However, if you do have more questions, you know where the comment section is. Now, if you are interested in learning a little bit more about woodworking, some basics, how to use some certain tools, I've got you covered. I've got some really cool playlists with some projects as well that you can check out and see if the info what you're looking for is actually there. So hopefully I'll see you on one of those videos there. Take care.